Afghanistan. A land that seems untouched by time, yet constantly at the center of global conflict. Its name has echoed through the halls of ancient empires, Cold War battlefields, and modern newsrooms. Over centuries, the world's greatest empires have tried to dominate it. The British Empire, the Soviet Union, and the United States each came believing that their military might, their modern tactics, and their grand strategies would succeed where others had failed. And yet, each one left the country broken, disillusioned, and defeated. In 2025, Afghanistan remains as defiant as ever, still resisting total control, still earning its title as the graveyard of empires. But this story isn't simple. This isn't just about war or military failure. This is about geography, culture, psychology, strategy, and a centuries-old resistance that seems built into the DNA of the Afghan people. To understand why no empire can conquer Afghanistan, we must start with the land itself. Few countries in the world are as geographically hostile to outsiders as Afghanistan. The Hindu Kush Mountains dominate the center of the country, creating natural barriers that separate populations, complicate logistics, and make large-scale invasions almost impossible to sustain. Narrow mountain passes like the Khyber and the Salang have swallowed entire armies. The high-altitude terrain means troops move slowly, aircraft struggle to operate, and modern tanks are practically useless. Supply lines are constantly vulnerable. Harsh winters and scorching summers grind down even the best-trained military forces. In short, the geography doesn't just protect Afghanistan, it fights back. But Afghanistan is more than just its mountains. The second, and perhaps more important reason empires fail here, is the people. The Afghan spirit is defined by independence. The average Afghan's loyalty is not to a central government, but to their tribe, their clan, their village, and their religion. The modern Western idea of a unified, centralized nation-state doesn't apply here in the same way. Instead, Afghanistan is a network of decentralized groups, Pashtuns, Tajiks, Hazaras, Uzbeks, and others, each with their own identity, culture, and power structure. When outsiders arrive and try to impose a single ruler or system over this decentralized mosaic, resistance is immediate and fierce. And history shows us that this resistance is not only military, but deeply psychological and cultural. This is evident in the long history of failed invasions. In 330 BCE, Alexander the Great, one of history's most brilliant military minds, marched through Afghanistan on his way to India. He conquered the Persian Empire with relative ease, but in Afghanistan, his army faced constant ambushes, uprisings, and guerrilla resistance. He spent more time fighting in Afghanistan than in any other territory. His conquest may have succeeded on paper, but it was never truly stable. After his death, the Greek forces and culture quickly faded, leaving behind only ruins. In the 19th century, the British Empire entered Afghanistan to counter Russian influence during the Great Game. What followed were three brutal wars. In 1842, after attempting to install a puppet ruler, the British suffered one of the most infamous defeats in imperial history. A retreating British force of more than 16,000 soldiers and camp followers was ambushed during their withdrawal from Kabul. Only one man, Dr. William Brydon, survived to tell the tale. And yet, despite two more attempts over the next 80 years, the British never managed to truly control the Afghan people or the land. Eventually, they abandoned their imperial dreams in the region. Then came the Soviets. In 1979, the USSR invaded Afghanistan to support a communist government facing internal revolt. Confident in their military superiority, the Soviets believed they could crush the Mujahideen fighters in a matter of months. But they underestimated the resilience of the Afghan resistance. With support from the United States, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and others, the Mujahideen launched a brutal guerrilla war. Soviet convoys were ambushed in the mountains. Helicopters were shot down by American-supplied Stinger missiles. Civilians and soldiers alike suffered under constant conflict. After nearly a decade, over 15,000 Soviet troops had died. In 1989, the Red Army finally withdrew. 2 years later, the Soviet Union collapsed. Many analysts believe the Afghan war played a significant role in draining Soviet morale, resources, and global prestige. But the most costly and recent foreign intervention was led by the United States. After the attacks of September 11, 2001, America launched Operation Enduring Freedom, targeting al-Qaeda and the Taliban. Within weeks, the Taliban were pushed from power, and hopes were high that Afghanistan could become a modern democracy. Billions of dollars flowed into the country. Schools were built, roads paved, women's rights expanded, and elections were held. But beneath the surface, the same problems that haunted past empires were growing. Corruption within the Afghan government spread like wildfire. Warlords still controlled entire provinces. The Taliban, once thought defeated, regrouped in rural areas and across the border in Pakistan. As foreign troops patrolled cities, resentment grew. Many Afghans saw foreign soldiers not as liberators, but as occupiers. The war dragged on for 20 years, the longest in U.S. history. Over 2,400 American soldiers were killed. Tens of thousands more were wounded. Trillions of dollars were spent. And yet, in August 2021, everything collapsed in just a matter of days. As American troops withdrew, province after province fell to the Taliban without resistance. The Afghan army, trained and funded for years, melted away. On August 15, 2021, the Taliban walked into Kabul unopposed. The US-backed government vanished. The images of Afghans clinging to US planes as they departed the airport became a symbol of desperate collapse and another failed empire. Now, in 2025, the Taliban remain in power. But while they may have won the war against foreign occupation, they now face the even harder task of governing a fractured, suffering nation. The Taliban government enforces strict Sharia law. Girls are banned from secondary and higher education in most parts of the country. Women are no longer allowed to work in most NGOs or public institutions. Media is tightly controlled. Protests are crushed. Yet, despite this oppression, opposition still exists. The National Resistance Front, NRF, led by Ahmad Massoud, son of the legendary anti-Taliban commander Ahmad Shah Massoud, continues to launch guerrilla attacks from strongholds in the Panjshir Valley. Worse still, ISIS-Khorasan, ISIS-K, has gained momentum, challenging the Taliban with deadly bombings in Kabul, Jalalabad, and Kunar province. These attacks are increasing in frequency, and unlike the Taliban, ISIS-K has no interest in political legitimacy. It wants chaos. The Taliban, who once used insurgency tactics, are now the ones being targeted. The roles have reversed. Meanwhile, Afghanistan's economy has collapsed. Since 2021, the country has been isolated from the international banking system. Billions in foreign aid have stopped. The Afghan currency has lost much of its value. Hunger and unemployment are widespread. In the last 6 months alone, over 18 million Afghans have been estimated to be food insecure. International humanitarian aid is trickling in, but under heavy restrictions and Taliban interference. Geopolitically, Afghanistan remains a chessboard. China is seeking long-term investment opportunities, especially in lithium and copper mining. Chinese delegations have met with Taliban officials multiple times in 2024 and 2025. These minerals are crucial for global technology industries. Russia, bogged down in Ukraine, is quietly building intelligence ties in the region. Pakistan, once seen as the Taliban's primary backer, is now increasingly worried about cross-border militancy and the blowback from extremist groups. Iran watches the situation closely, especially with the persecution of Shia Hazaras under Taliban rule. India continues to support non-Taliban factions diplomatically and through intelligence cooperation with the NRF. But what none of these powers will admit openly is this: no one is willing to fully step into Afghanistan anymore, not militarily, not directly. They've all seen what happens to those who try. No one wants to become the next empire buried in the mountains of Afghanistan. So the question still stands, stronger than ever in 2025. Why can no empire defeat Afghanistan? The answer is layered. Because geography protects it. Because the people resist it. Because the culture rejects foreign control. Because history remembers. Because every invader comes believing that they are different, and every one of them leaves learning that they were not. Afghanistan is not just a country, it is a lesson. And that lesson is written in the blood of empires, from Alexander to Biden. The truth is, Afghanistan doesn't defeat you through firepower. It defeats you by forcing you to fight forever, draining your resources, your morale, and your political will. You can win battles here, but you cannot win peace without understanding the people, respecting the culture, and acknowledging that not every land can be reshaped. That is why Afghanistan is undefeated. That is why it remains the graveyard of conquerors. And that is why history keeps repeating itself, because empires refuse to learn. And so, the mountains of Afghanistan remain silent witnesses to centuries of ambition and failure. One by one, empires came with pride and power, and one by one, they left with scars and regrets. What they all forgot is that Afghanistan cannot be ruled by force, only respected through understanding. The graveyard of empires isn't just a name, it's a warning, written into the soil, the stones, and the blood of its people. If you found this video informative, powerful, or thought-provoking, please consider giving it a like, sharing it with others, and subscribing for more deep-dive history and geopolitics content. Your support helps this channel grow and continue to bring you stories that go beyond the headlines. Let us know in the comments. Do you think any power could ever truly stabilize Afghanistan? Or is it destined to remain untamed? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and remember, history always leaves clues for those willing to look beyond the surface.